Hello there, Assalamu alaikum. I am your instructor, Abhijit Shaha, a student of SAST in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. Today's our topic will be Introduction to Macroeconomics. So here is the index. The first topic we will going to learn is macroeconomics activities. The second point will be objects of macroeconomics. The third point will be instruments of macroeconomics, and the last point will be the major macroeconomics indicators. Okay, so before we go to the first topic, we first have to know what is macroeconomics. This slide is about the definition of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics basically the study of the behavior of the economy as a whole. So in macroeconomics we study about the behavior of the economy as a whole, but in microeconomics we study about a specific quantities, markets, or a company, right? In macroeconomics there is a word aggregated. What does the word means? It means actually the combination, or you can say the summation. So such as aggregated supply or aggregated demand, which denotes the idea of combination, that is a country as a whole. So here is a quick note: aggregate, this means summation, or you can say the combination. In macroeconomics we say it like the country as a whole. Okay, go to next slide. The macroeconomics activities. What is actually the macroeconomics activities is? Macroeconomics activities is actually the study how economy as a whole operates or grow. So basically in macroeconomics activities we will going to study some point that give us information how economy operates. I mean how economy work, or you can say how economy work and grow. So what could be those points? Here are some example. This is the first point, which is output or GDP. The second point is national income. The third point is unemployment rate. The fourth one is international trade, and the fifth point is inflation, and the last one is savings and investments. What is mainly GDP? The full form of GDP is gross domestic product. We will get into more detail about this a little later. Now go to the national income. National income is basically the total income of a country. Okay, the unemployment rate means actually the percentage of unemployment. And the fourth one is international trade. Basically it contains the export and imports. Inflation means the price going up, but here this is the price level. We're going to talk about this in later. Savings and investments. Saving means the amount of money that a person don't use in consumption. Okay, so what is savings? Saving is the amount of money that a person not use as a consumption. What is investments? From savings, a specific amount of money people use in investment, so they can get a profit out of it. Okay, now objects of macroeconomics. What is objects of macroeconomics? Simply the goals of macroeconomics. What macroeconomics actually want. That is the objects of macroeconomics. Okay. So three things that macroeconomics want. So first one is the GDP growth. The second one is unemployment reduction, and the final one is the price stability. Here the first two is major things or major activities, major objects, and the third one is secondary objects. So GDP is mainly a standard measure of country's economic output produced in a specific period of time. Okay, an unemployment reduction means the less unemployment. So what is unemployment? Unemployment when people are looking for a job but not getting the job, and make a less of this is unemployment reduction. So what is price stability then? An economic condition where the prices of goods and services remain relatively constant. It doesn't mean it never goes up and down, but when it goes up, it follows a constant trend. I hope you understand. Now go to the next slide. The next slide is about the instruments of macroeconomics. So what is actually the instruments of macroeconomic is? This is basically the tool. This is basically the tool that we use to achieve the objects of macroeconomics. So there should be some tool, right, that we use to get at things. Here the tool is instruments. We use instruments of macroeconomics to achieve the objects of macroeconomics. Okay, fine. So what can be those tools? There is mainly two tools or two policy. This is the first policy and this is the second policy. The first policy is all about fiscal policy and the second policy is named monetary policy. So what is actually the fiscal policy is? Fiscal policy involves a government decision on taxation, spending to influence the economy. This is mainly involvement of government in the economy. And what is monetary policy? Monetary policy is the central bank's management of the money supply and interest rate. So there is a common question that who manage it? So who manage the fiscal policy and who manage the monetary policy? The answer is really simple. The fiscal policy is managed by the government, whereas the monetary policy is always monitored by the central bank. So which tool is used actually? In the term of fiscal policy, they use government spending and taxation, whereas the monetary policy use the supply and the interest rate, supply of money and interest rate. Okay, next slide. Instrument used to achieve objectives. So by using the fiscal policy, we achieve the first two objectives. I mean the primary or the major objectives. Major or the primary objectives, which are the GDP growth and the unemployment reduction. And by using the monetary policy, we get the price stability. If you can remember, the monetary policy is always controlled by the CB or central bank. The central bank is obviously right. The central bank will work in the price stability segment, and the government will work in GDP and unemployment reduction. It's like a common sense, right? So here are two graphs. The first graph is about the stable price, whereas the second graph is about the unstable price. Look at this trend of the graph. The graph is rising, but the trend is very constant, right? It is rising in a constant trend or following a really constant trend, whereas the second graph is following a random way. I mean, first it is getting up and really a big jump, and then a sharp decline, then up and down, ups and downs, a random way. But it is really constant way. So this is the basic difference between the stable price and the unstable price graph. I hope you understand. So we're going to the next slide. The next slide is about the major macroeconomics indicators. Indicator is those things that indicates, right? Indicates. Then the question is what the macroeconomics indicator indicates. So here is the answer. A macroeconomic indicator is a structural measure statistical measures that shows the overall health and performance and trends of a country's economy. So it actually indicates the health, performance, and the trends of a country. So the question was, for what macroeconomics indicator indicates? The answer is the health, performance, and the trends of economy. Okay, so the next slide is about some common points of macroeconomics indicators. Let's go through it. The first one is national economy. Okay, we will get into this topic in detail in a little later. So the second one is the GDP per capita. The third one is GNP, which means gross national product. The fourth one is national rate, inflation rate. The fifth one is FDI, which means foreign direct investment. The sixth one is GNI, that means gross national income. The seventh is GDP, and the last is real GDP. This is the eighth, right? Okay, so these are the points that indicates the health, performance, and trends of our economy. Okay, so here is the national economy. The first point, national economy. So this is basically in three types. The first one is low, the second one is moderate, and the third is high. So for the first, the low is indicates the poor country. The second, moderate, indicates the middle income countries. The third, high, refer to the rich country. It is mainly World Bank ranking. World Bank separate countries with this indicator. Okay, so next slide is about national income. National income is the total monetary value of all final goods and services produced by a country's resident in a specific period, usually a year. Okay, so now we are in the very crucial part, that is GDP and GNP. So what is GDP? GDP means gross domestic product. Total market value of all goods and services in a country's border during a given time. So basically the measurement is about the location of the production. Whereas the GNP's measurement is in the basis of ownership and factors. So what is GNP? GNP is the total market value of goods and services produced by the national citizens, whether inside or outside the country. Or that means GNP can be inside and outside the country, whereas the GDP will be only inside the border of the country. There is a comparison here. The GDP is the produced by residents of a country, and the GNP is produced by the citizen of a country. So there could be a question that what is the difference between the residents and the citizen? If you go with the example that a Bangladeshi professor works in USA and he is earning a lot of money there, right? So the money will be GDP and GNP. GDP for whom and GNP for which country? GDP for residents and GNP goes for the citizen. So though he is working in USA but he is citizen of Bangladesh, so his income will be the GNP of Bangladesh, whereas he is now a resident of USA, so his income will be in the GDP of USA. Okay, so everything done. I hope you enjoy the video, If you enjoy the video and find something really informative, I recommend to subscribe my channel and hit the like button. Okay, thank you, and we will going to meet in another video in another time. Thank you very much.